are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on commercial solutions with the M1 system. My name's Brad Weeks, and joining me today will be Jonathan Jennings, and today we're going to give you a brief overview of how to incorporate the M1 into commercial applications. Bear with me one second. There we go. All right, so at any time during today's webinar, if you should happen to have a question, please type your question into the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can during today's webinar, but if we're unable to, there will be a follow-up email early next week. All right, so today we are going to talk about the M1 Security and Automation Controller. It is a rock-solid security system with full automation and access control capabilities. We're able to control and schedule just about anything electrical, either through relay contacts or through one of our partner manufacturers in lighting or something along that line. We have a very flexible system to meet most budget requirements and preference needs. I mean, after all, if there's certain features that you're not interested in, there's no need purchasing those up front if you're not going to use them. So you can get just as much as you need to get started and then add to your system later on. We have great expansion capabilities with the M1. The system will support up to 208 total inputs, and of those 208 inputs, 144 of those can be wireless. We also have 205 possible outputs off of the board, with output 1 and 2 being our voice and external siren, and then we have output 3 and so forth. We consider ourselves integration friendly with a variety of partner manufacturers to include lighting and thermostat, shades, locks, home automation software, and much, much more. The system is easy to program, but still yet powerful using the ELK RP programming software. And then we have a number of third-party apps available, as well as the M1 to Go software, which is available for controlling the system as far as your graphical user interface. So as far as our security and automation solutions, for a commercial application, this could be for an office or maybe a multi-tenant complex. Maybe it's for a restaurant or a food service application, fitness centers or gyms, or maybe even a school that you want to help automate their system. And some key features that differentiate commercial versus residential security. Typically in a residential application, you wouldn't have opening and closing reports, but for a commercial application, you want to be able to tell who's been arming and disarming the system and at what time. So that is a feature of the M1 system, to report that to your central monitoring service. The M1 system is capable of being partitioned into 8 separate areas or partitions. We have access control capabilities. We have the capability to monitor temperature and alarms for notifications such as server rooms or freezers or coolers. We have a feature in the M1 system. It's called a periodic trip. Now, this would mean that, say for instance, a motion detector would have to see motion within a 24-hour period, or it's going to report a condition that this zone needs trip. So for a commercial application, perhaps a warehouse or something along those lines, just to keep somebody from accidentally or intentionally stacking boxes or product in front of a motion sensor, that motion would have to be tripped once within a 24-hour period, or the system's going to get alerted. It's help to defeat or compromise that particular zone. Now, the system is more than just a security control. We can have the M1 system arm and disarm based upon a time of day, or whether the area or partition is currently occupied. We can also provide notification if the system hasn't been armed or disarmed at an expected time, making sure to keep your business secure and running smoothly. If you happen to have a client that has a number of individuals and perhaps they have different schedules, you'd always want to make sure that at some point in the day that the system was armed, specifically when maybe the last person left, or if no motion was sensed after a specific amount of time, the system could automatically arm for you. The M1 can alert the monitoring station and or provide notification to management or maintenance staff when certain events take place, like an undesirable temperature, a water leak, maybe a reminder that the HVAC filters need changed, or a water filtration system needs changed, or something along those lines. We also offer a cloud-based user management option, which makes it easy to add and delete users. Now, some features of the M1 system. This is our main board. It has 16 on board zones. It's expandable up to 208. Of those 208, 144 of those can be wireless. We support up to 199 users as a standalone system. Now, through some of our partner manufacturers, it may be possible to incorporate additional users using their software. The system has a 1 amp continuous output with available 2.5 amps during alarm conditions, with the additional 1.5 amps being drawn from the battery. The outputs, there's 13 outputs on board. Output 1 and 2 are hard-coded. Output 1 is your interior voice and siren. Output 2 could be either exterior siren or converted into a voltage output. Output 3 is a general purpose Form C relay. We then have outputs 7 through 16, which are low voltage outputs off the board. They are 12 volt, 50 milliamps each. We also offer an expansion board, which would convert 8 of those outputs into actual Form C relays. The system can be divided into up to 8 areas or partitions. Like if it's a multi-tenant area, maybe a strip mall or something along those lines, you can have 8 separate areas controlled by one system. Has a 512 event log for your system alarms, your armings, your disarmings, your troubles, and so forth. We offer 6 arming levels with the M1 system. Now, typically for a commercial application, probably away or vacation would be most common. But if you do have those employees that may be working after hours and you would still like the perimeter of the system to be armed but the interior zones not armed, then you can use stay and stay instance, for instance. Like I said, output 1 does our voice alerts. The M1 has a 500 word vocabulary built into it, so you can customize zones and conditions to speak a phrase that best describes what's happening in that area. And has a built-in astronomical clock, so we always know what time it is, and it compensates for daylight savings time. There's also a feature within our M1 XEP, our Ethernet module, which allows the M1 to sync up with a national time server. Now, being we're talking about commercial applications here, obviously you may need additional zones, and we offer zone expanders. This is the M1XIN. This is a hardwired 16-zone input expander. You can have up to 12 of these on the data bus. Each one would have its own unique starting address. Now they can be remotely located from the M1. They don't have to be right there at the control, so if it makes more sense to home run your zones to maybe a junction subpanel, you can have the M1XIN located within that subpanel. Now some common commercial sensors that you can incorporate into the M1, obviously we probably want motion and glass break, maybe even a request to exit button at the reception's desk, or a panic button there if there's an emergency situation. You can also use the standard security zones, inputs, your window door sensors, and even foil on windows and so forth. I'd like to take a moment to talk about wireless capabilities with the M1 system, and ELK is proud to introduce a truly unique two-way wireless product line. What we have is our ELK M1XRF-TW. This is our wireless transceiver. The reason we call it a wireless transceiver, not only does it receive the signals from the sensors, it can also transmit information back to the sensors. So this is really a unique feature of the ELK two-way wireless product line. We offer a number of different sensors. We have our glass break sensor. We have our 4-button fob. And this is would normally be used for arming and disarming, but we notice we have a LED at the top of the fob. This LED serves several purposes. We have our inquiry button, that's the one with the eye, it's button number 3. If you press and hold that, the LED will light up green if the system is disarmed. It'll light up red if the system's armed. It'll flash red if the system has been in alarm. So if you have an employee coming in and they want to check to make sure the condition of the security system, they can get visual, as long as the fob's within range of the transceiver, they can get visual confirmation if the system's armed or disarmed, or if there's been an alarm condition, and therefore they would choose whether or not to enter the premise. We offer our 6011, our single button panic. We offer the 6030 motion detector, and the 6030 has a courtesy white LED built into the motion detector, which can be controlled by the M1 system. So during alarm conditions, it would flash, or you can create rules to have that turn on periodically. Maybe to light the way if it's during a power outage or something. It would give a nice glow to the area just to light the pathway. We also have the 60, 20, 21, and 22 sensors. These are window door sensor, with the 6021 being for non-metallic surfaces, wood or vinyl. And notice that each one of our two-way wireless sensors has an LED built into it. And it may be kind of hard to see in our slide here, but the purpose of this LED is when the sensor sends a signal to the transceiver will send acknowledgement back. And if the signal gets through, the LED built into the sensor will light green. It's a great confirmation that the signal got through. You can also use this as a troubleshooting tool if you're determining whether or not you need additional wireless receivers on the data bus. You can set the system up and walk test by opening the loop. If the light turns green, signal got through and you got the acknowledgement back. If it turns red, it didn't get the acknowledgement, so you know you're out of range of the transceiver. It's a great troubleshooting tool and installer tool built into each sensor. And we also offer some recessed window door sensors. That's the ELK 6023. Now the two-way product line uses encrypted code. It's a 900 megahertz frequency hopping transmission, so it's really hard to hack or jam a signal that's constantly changing. It does provide you with the true two-way signal acknowledgement, as well as status LED feedback. So a lot of work's been put into the ELK two-way wireless product line to help give indication back that something has happened or that the signal got through. Also, a couple nice features like the courtesy LED built into the wireless PIR. We offer the two-way product
Hey,
line.
Brad.
Yes, go ahead.
Before you get a little too far, somebody asked a question about how long is the range of our two-way wireless product?
Right, good, great question. Now the range really depends on the environmental aspects of the location. Wood, metal, concrete, all these things really play into overall range. Now, open air line of sight, probably about 300 feet. Once you start adding in, especially rebar, concrete, ductwork, those can really deteriorate the signal of any wireless. It's kind of hard to put a range on a sensor without knowing what environment it's going into. So the status LED or the acknowledgement LED in the two-way product line will help the installer know if if there are transceivers at the north end of the home and I'm at the south end of the home or business, and I can walk test that to know whether or not my signal's getting through. With the ELK two-way product transceiver, you can have up to 4 of those on the data bus. You still have a total of 144 wireless zones, but at least now you can add additional receivers to help increase the coverage area or to help eliminate any dead zones. All right, great question. Any other right now, Jonathan?
That's it.
Okay. All right, so we do offer the two-way product line in a couple kits for our installers, and the top one is a basic M1 kit with the wireless transceiver and a fob. We also offer the wireless transceiver and several sensors already pre-packaged in a kit. And you can see when you purchase the kit, basically you're getting the two-way transceiver for free. At ELK, we're very fortunate that we can also integrate with 2 other wireless technologies, the Honeywell 5800 series one-way transmitters and the GE or Interlogix sensors as well. We offer the ELK M1X RF2H receiver for Honeywell and the M1X RF-EG receiver to support the GE product line. Once again, up to 144 wireless zones. And you can have multiple receivers spread out through the facilities to help increase that coverage area. Now, whether you're doing commercial or residential, alarm reporting options would go hand in hand with either one. So we still have the telephone dialer built into the M1, which supports contact ID, SIA 4+2. We have cellular options available through the Uplink 4500 EZ or the AES IntelliNet. Both of those would require the M1XSP, the serial port expander. And then on the market today are a number of dial capture modules, which simulate a phone line voltage and current to any security system. So the M1 would be compatible with those as well. And with the dial capture module, the radio captures the information from the M1 and turns around and rebroadcasts it over their network. You also have IP reporting capabilities using the M1XEP interface, which is compatible with the DSC SureGuard and the Osborne Hoffman 2000E central station receiver. We also are capable of integrating two-way listen-in into the M1 system. This is primarily for central station verification of alarms or to avoid any unnecessary dispatch of authorities or emergency personnel. It can also be used through a hardwired landline to call into the M1 system, maybe perhaps to check on a loved one or a caregiver or something along those lines. We offer two interface boards, the M1 TWA and the M1 TWI, the difference being the TWA is an amplified interface, and even if you're not using the TWA as for two-way listen-in, there's a couple special features on this board. There are three individual amplified outputs for your speakers. So if you have a multi-level or multi-area and you need the speakers in this area to be louder than the speakers in another area, say maybe an office versus light manufacturing, well then you can adjust the volume using the TWA so that the manufacturing area is louder when the M1 is speaking versus the office area. So it's a great feature for the M1 TWA amplified interface. And then on the right hand side of our slide here, we have some different microphones and speaker combinations. The M1 TWS surface mount speaker microphone. Then the M1 TWSF, which is speaker microphone in a flush mount version. And then the M1 TWM is just a microphone only, so you could put that in its own housing. All right, now earlier we mentioned making sure that your business was armed, especially after everyone had left for the day, and maybe perhaps the last person out didn't realize they were the last person out, so they forgot to arm the system. Well, with the M1, you can create automatic arming rules. And right now, we have a basic auto arming rule here on our screen. So whenever the time is 11:02 p.m., then arm area 1 to away immediately. So after the exit delay is expired, then the system is armed to away. Likewise, we can set it up so that it has auto arming with a warning announcement. So in this scenario, we have whenever the time is 10:50 p.m., then arm area 1 after 10 minutes. So the M1 will automatically provide keypad beeping and then a voice alert to warn those in the building that the system is going to arm. Now, if there is somebody in there, they can extend that time. They know 10 minutes they're not going to be able to get out, so they can press the up arrow key and they can increment that 10 minutes each time they press the up arrow key up to a total of 120 minutes. So if they feel like they need 15 minutes to finish up and get out, press the up arrow key twice, gives them additional 20 so that they can leave. So this is a nice feature of the M1 system, being able to auto arm automatically, as well as being able to auto arm with announcements to let those in the business or facility know that the system is preparing to arm. You can create rules based upon schedules. For instance, whenever the time is 10 p.m. and the days of the week are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, then arm to the away mode after 10 minutes. But if it's the weekend, you maybe want to arm at 6 o'clock. So whenever the time is 5:50 and the days of the week are Sunday and Saturday, then arm after 10 minutes. So at any time, regardless of the day of the week, you know that your system will be armed. We also have some other great resources available on our website, if you take a look at the link here at the bottom, where you can get additional tips on auto arming based upon occupancy, as well as consideration for major holidays. In a commercial application, access control may be a big selling point for some people. So you can have up to 16 points or doors or gates integrated into the M1 system and up to 199 users. Now, users can be cards, fobs, or codes, but it's still a total of 199 unless you use one of our integration partners and their automation software. Now, readers and access keypads connect to the M1 through the M1 keypad or our access control module, our M1 KAM. And a little note here at the bottom, it says not all keypads support this. So, and there's a special wiring harness. So basically it's the M1 KP and KP2 keypads, KP3 keypad that allows you to have a prox reader connected, or it could be one of the numeric keypad prox readers that outputs a 26-bit Wiegand format. This is for commercial solutions. You can employee entrance or a gate control, or maybe it's a tool bin or something that you want to, they don't necessarily need a keypad and a code, regular ELK keypad. You can put a 26-bit prox reader there and have the M1 control access in and out of this restricted area, for instance. And what I have is a keypad comparison chart here, and this is the keypads that we offer with the M1 system. We have our M1 KP Navigator. We have our M1 KP. This is the original keypad. We have our KPB, difference being the blue screen versus the green screen. A KP2 keypad, KP3, and then our arming station. Now, as far as optional 26-bit Wiegand readers, the KP and KPB, you can have an internal prox reader. That's the ELK M1 PRC. It's a little coin 26-bit prox reader that fits into the back of the keypad. Read range is probably about an inch. Or you can have an external prox reader connected to these four keypads, the KP, KPB, KP2, and KP3. KP2 and KP3 require a unique harness for them, and then the KP and KPB have their own unique harness for connecting your 26-bit Wiegand reader. Now the Wiegand reader should be as fairly close to the keypad as possible, say within 20 feet of the keypad. Like I mentioned a minute ago, we are compatible with 26-bit Wiegand devices that can connect to our keypad or to our access control module. Here's a picture of the access control module. Now the M1 KAM, the access control module, offers several features that a keypad doesn't. First, it takes the place of a keypad on the data bus, but it doesn't have the LCD display. So you could mount this in the drop ceiling, and it has a convenient place to hardwire your 26-bit Wiegand reader or your Dallas iButton reader. It has a single pole double throw relay on board to control your door strike or your mag lock. It also has a door status and request to exit input built into the board. Below this is our reader, the ELK 106055 prox reader. It is a 26-bit reader. We're compatible with any 26-bit Wiegand devices. Typically, you'd want to make sure that you have your cards and fobs from the same manufacturer as the reader to make sure that they're both compatible with each other. So with our reader, the 106055, we have our ELK M1 PRC, the cards, and the M1 PRF is the little fob. Both of those are 26-bit, and they can be used in conjunction with the M1 system. Each one of these cards or fobs would take up one user location, so you have 199 users available in the M1 system. As far as our access control rules, let's take a look at allowing an employee to enter the building when disarmed. So whenever access, that's a card, fob, or 4-digit code, is entered on keypad number 1, is triggered. So whenever they swipe their card, their fob, or enter their code, and the corporate office area 1 is disarmed, then turn on the door lock, output 10 for 35 seconds. If the system were within an armed state, it would not work. You could also incorporate another and statement like we've done here at the bottom, where you can say the time is later than 7:45 a.m. and the time is earlier than 6 p.m. and the days of the week are Monday through Friday. Then let this employee in. So this employee only has, or anyone with access as their user authorization, only has access to this area from 7:45 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now you can also use a motion detector connected to a zone as a request to exit. So whenever the employee entrance PIR zone 7 becomes not secure, then turn that door lock output 10 on for 35 seconds. We've done a couple other access control videos and webinars over the years, and you can view those on our YouTube channel. John, we have to check. I'm not sure if that link is right there. We'll have to check that. We'll do that. But anyway, there's a couple examples of access control rules here. All right, the Ethernet module, the M1 XEP, allows the M1 system to be connected to the local area network for programming. It also allows to be accessed remotely for programming, provided the secure port is port forwarded through the router. It also has reporting and notification features built into it, so you can send signals to your central station, provided that they have the Osborne-Hoffman or the SureGuard receiver. You can also send email and text message notifications. It has 16 predefined email notifications built into the XEP module. Now, if you need enhanced notification, then you'd probably want to go through Connect One, our cloud-based service. If you get an opportunity, please visit their website. They have a lot of neat features going on with the Connect One and the M1 Cloud. Now, as far as setting up the XEP to send email, this is handled under the XEP setup under the email tab. We would need to know the outbound mail server and port for your email service provider, and we do support the SSL encryption on the body of the message now with XEP update 2.x.x. Anything going forward to support SSL encryption. We have our valid from address and then the necessary username and password for the login to the mail server. And then below here is an example of setting up an email to email Bob that the building is unarmed, or to email him that the server room is 75 degrees or that the freezer is melting. So programming and setting up this is done through rules, as far as creating your rule to send these email messages out. And we have additional information on setting up email servers on our website. You can also set up a message, send a text message out to your phone. Here's an example of how to configure an email as a text message. So, for instance, Verizon, you put the 10-digit phone number at vtext.com back on the previous screen under the email tab, and then write your rule that whenever a certain event took place, send the following email, which would turn out to be a text message to your phone. Here's an example of
Hey, Brad.
yes.
Real quick, how many emails can the M1 send out?
The M1 has capability of sending 16 predefined email messages.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right, so in our next example, you may want somebody to be notified when the system was not disarmed at by 7:15. So whenever the time is 7:15, and the days of the week are Monday through, in this case, Saturday, in the showroom area 1 is armed, then send that email message that, my showroom is not disarmed, so there's no one there yet. Now, this event can also be reported to Central Station by setting up the late open feature, and that's under area report codes. So not only could we get a message to the manager, we can also send message to Central Station that the system wasn't disarmed at a certain period of time. All right, any other questions at this moment, Jonathan?
We did have one. I can hold it till the end, or if you want to go ahead and answer it, you can, Brad, if you're feeling froggy.
Well, it's whatever we want to do. If you want to go ahead and give us the question, we'll see if we can answer it now.
Alrighty, it's talking about Windows 10 support.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Yes, we can go ahead and address that. That's fine. All right, yes, the M1 RP software is Windows 10 compatible. Now, the XEP module, the Ethernet module, must be updated with firmware 2.0.34 or later to be Windows 10 compatible. So either you would have to update the XEP using Windows 7 or Windows 8 running RP, or we have a special utility on the website that allows updating to that 2.0.34 version, which would then support connection with a Windows 10 computer. But going forward, everything, the XEP has been updated with 2.0.34, so hopefully that won't be a problem in the future. Yeah, Windows 10 incorporated some enhanced encryption, and so now the XEP is compatible with that enhanced encryption. All right, so if there's nothing else at this moment, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jonathan, who's going to start with automation and control and finish up with the rest of today's webinar. So, Jonathan, I'm going to leave it in your hands.
All righty, thank you, Brad. You did a great job. We're over all the what I call the nuts and bolts of the system, so I get to do the more fun stuff. Apparently, having a little technical difficulty here.
Just to give everyone a little background, I'm located in North Carolina right now, and Jonathan is in Alabama. So we're doing this via World Wide Web. So, Jonathan, do you need me to advance the slide?
Yeah, if you could, please. For some odd reason, it's not allowing me to do it.
Yeah, no problem at all. Okay, here we go.
Now you're going to have to stay awake.
No problem at all. All right, there we go.
Alrighty, now Brad has talked about some integration partners as we've been talking, going over this whole webinar. When it comes to software interface, we talked a little bit about a company called ConnectOne, which allows the M1 to do more cloud-based. If you're looking at possibly going that route for more commercial, they're going to allow you to have a lot more users. For instance, instead of the 199, they can add a lot more users to the system. But here we've got it nice and broken down of all the different systems that we can use. We talked about cellular reporting earlier on in the presentation. So you've got the uplink, the Telguard, the AES radio type network. We've got lighting on the left-hand side, thermostats as we're moving forward. So maybe we want to do some more things in that commercial setting to try to save some money in the long run. We also have a whole list of partners is on our website at elkproducts.com. Here on this particular slide is give you the integration details. So for instance, if I want to do some AES radio reporting to a central station or maybe to myself, what I can do is it says I need to do a serial connection, and the parts that I need from Elk Products themselves is a serial port expander, the Elk M1 XSP. That's going to allow us to have another serial port added on to the panel. Further down here, since we are talking about central stations and reporting, if we were going to do a SureGuard receiver, we would actually need the XCP, and of course Brad went into great detail over going the Ethernet module. But this is a really good breakdown depending on what you want to do with the M1, what parts do I need to make this happen? So it's a nice broken down list. Now, a piece of information that we've got from basically the EIA.gov is how is energy used around a commercial building? So here's a nice breakdown, a beautiful pie chart. Now some of the pie pieces are much bigger than other ones, so personally for me, I'd want to eat 36% of the pie and maybe leave Brad the little 3% because I don't want to share a good pie with Brad. Sorry, buddy.
No problem.
But you can see, well, we could do a lot of things that we're, most of the energy from this particular study has shown that we're seeing a lot of it being used in space heating and lighting. So maybe those are two areas that we want to concentrate on to be able to save the commercial building or even our own retail storefront some money over time. We want to be able to automate those so things automatically happen and we don't have to think about them. All right, now Brad did talk earlier in the presentation about temperature sensors, and how we're able to do this is we offer two different temperature sensors, an ELK M1 ZTS, which basically has the probe inside that plastic case with the venting. We can put those anywhere around that we want to. And we also have one that plugs into that gives you this nice 7-foot long cord with a stainless steel probe at the end. Now you don't want to submerge the whole probe in a solution, but if you're going to put that like in a freezer, you might want to have it in an alcohol solution so the alcohol is not going to freeze, but the temperature is not going to radically change when the door is opened. I have seen some of that in the past, but we can provide notifications based on a lot of things on depending on what we want, like a server room, for instance. I was in a school system many years ago that the server room got too hot, and now the server just kind of works when it wants to, because once the server gets up to 120 degrees, bad things happen. If there's any IT people out there, there'll be a lot of those guys become freaked out at 80 degrees, so you can imagine how bad that is for a server getting up to 120 degrees. But we can do that by voice. We can make an announcement with the M1. We can send out emails. We can do texts. We can even turn on, for instance, a strobe light or something. Real quick, these temperature sensors do have to be tied on to one of the main 16 zones on the main panel itself. You cannot actually add those onto the M1 XIN, which is a zone input expander board. So it has to be tied into the main board itself. Now we've actually got some rules written here, and I did mention earlier about doing it to a strobe light, so we can actually do that. So right now what we've got going on is every 10 minutes the M1 is going to be checking on zone 10 where that temperature sensor is wired into the main panel, and if that temperature is over 75 degrees, it's going to turn on a strobe light in the server room to let you know there's visual of, hey, something is wrong, and it's also going to send an email message to the IT manager. And you see we've actually got the email right there for you. So it's good that it's got an email that's going to be being sent out, but you also have visual verification. Hey, something is wrong, and it's going to draw your attention to it with that strobe light flashing. The second rule we've got written here is every 5 minutes, so that, again, every 5 minutes the M1 is going to be checking this, that zone 11 temperature is greater than 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Whew, that is cold. We then want to display high temperature alert in the main freezer and the show pad. Now this is actually going to be displaying on a keypad in that particular area, and it's going to keep displaying it for 255 seconds, or we can acknowledge it by pressing the star button on the keypad. So it's going to be beeping the keypad, and we press the star button to acknowledge it to keep that keypad from beeping. Now with the Ethernet module, we do have some remote control capabilities. What you can do is we can do some remote programming, we can do diagnostics and firmware updating. We can also do a lot of the end user benefits, and this, I think, for anybody that's a manager or running a small business, medium-sized business or anything like that, now they can have access to all this type of information of, hey, is the system armed? Is something getting too hot? What exactly is going on with my business when I'm on vacation? Maybe I just want to check to be sure that the system is armed or anything like that, or maybe I want to control certain lights. Certain businesses like to leave certain lights on, and other businesses want to turn every single light off. So we can actually be that nice and flexible for whoever the end user is to be sure we tailor our system to their requirements. And here on the right-hand side, we've actually got some different things to actually do it with. Now, here's different ways we can actually go in and remote control the M1 itself. M1 to go is a Windows type idea. It's a free download. There's no monthly fees. It can run on any Windows type device. You can put that on a USB drive and take it with you. eKeyPad works on iPhones, iPads, iTouches. It's basically just an app that you're buying, and you're installing it on a device, and then you're going out and touching that Ethernet module connected to the XEP to be able to have access to it. Exactly the same way for the Android, the M1 Touch Pro for all the Android type devices and Android tablets out there on the marketplace. And last but not least is a Connect One, which is a cloud-based service. It does have a monthly fee associated with it, but it's going to unlock the M1 to do a lot more of this stuff. Again, I talked earlier about, adding more users. You can actually get into a lot more of restricting users. It's going to turn the M1, instead of being like, handling 1 or 2 doors, we can now restrict access a lot more based on those users using a cloud-based service. So what things can we control remotely? I mean, that's a big thing. Maybe, I want to be able to open up a gate, a door. I need to disarm the system because my manager got sick and they're not going to be able to go in and open up the facility normally like I'm able to, and instead of, having to drive across town, or maybe it's an instance like where I'm in Alabama. I can't easily get to North Carolina and unlock the building. But if I've got remote control capability, using a smartphone or my computer, I can just go online, pick up my smartphone, and be able to disarm the system itself. Now, what technologies and lighting control can we actually do? Now, here's a list of some lighting partners that the M1 integrates into, and the different things that we actually need for it to happen. So if we want to do some Insteon, we need the Ethernet module and Universal Devices ISY product. If we're doing UPB, we actually add this ELK M1 PCS PIM module to interface into UVB lighting products. On the upper left-hand side, the serial port expander for central lights and on-cue type ALC lighting. If we want to do like the Square D Clipsal interface, we actually need that Clipsal lighting interface to be able to integrate all these different lighting products. So now we can have the lights automatically turn on before the business is going to open up. We can have lights automatically turn off because, just like me, sometimes I forget to turn off lights themselves. So these things are automatically going to happen for us. Now, getting into thermostats, remember we looked earlier at that pie chart of heating takes up the most energy use in a commercial building itself. So maybe I want to restrict, especially in the winter time. There's no reason to have, one person run around the building at night and try to turn off, 5 or 10 thermostats, for example. Even in a church community, you start getting these larger church buildings, they have a lot of thermostats, and literally somebody has to go around on, Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon and turn each one of those thermostats down. That's a lot of man hours, especially if you think about this in a commercial setting of, we got our offices that are up front, maybe light manufacturing is going on, and we also have a shipping department. We've got all these different thermostats. Instead of having somebody run around or make sure this person turns off this thermostat and all that, well, how about we just write a rule that connects all these thermostats together and automatically sets those temperatures back dramatically for us. I don't have to think about it. It's just automatically going to happen for me, and therefore we can be a lot more energy efficient moving forward. Now, here's a list of the different thermostats we actually work with. We also work with Z-Wave, and you can see here that we can do the Z-Wave locks and thermostats also. And even some blind and shades control with Lutron Radio Raw 2. We added earlier in one of the slides on the commercial building, we got all those windows set up. Well, it's beautiful and great until that sun starts shining in the summertime and you're heating up that whole place and people are complaining that they're too hot. Well, if we had some shade control so we can open up those windows in the wintertime, help heat up the building. But in the summertime, let's kind of restrict some of that sunshine to keep those front offices nice and cool. Now we got some examples of some rules here. And I mentioned a little bit about this, give you a little foreshadowing. Whenever it's 7:15 and it's dark outside, we want to turn on the parking lot lights. Well, that's great. I don't know of too many people that like to show up in a parking lot, especially women, that the parking lot's nice and dark. You know, it kind of sets their mood not to be great. It's also not good for a security reason of having a dark parking lot. And now whenever it's 10 minutes after sunrise, we're going to turn off those parking lot lights. It's a great example of just being able to automate just parking lot lights. Now, here's one that if you've ever been around in an office or a setting, or like if anybody married out there, you know, my and my wife, we live on 2 different temperature ranges, apparently. I'm more warm-natured than her. This is great for an office environment or whatever. You got people constantly touching the thermostat. It drives me nuts. What you can do is you can have the M1 automatically change that thermostat back to where it's supposed to be set every 5 minutes. Now, if you have this working, I have noticed before, if you have somebody go over there and change the thermostat, even though the M1 is going to change it back, 20 minutes later, that one person usually thinks it's warmer because they went over there and physically messed with the thermostat. But in reality, the thermostat went right back to its original state that it wanted that thermostat range to be in. If the thermostat's set to be at 71 degrees in the wintertime, they go over and jack it up to 73 or 4. Worst case scenario, 5 minutes later, the thermostat's going to get set back to 71 degrees, and it's going to continue to be like that all day long. Now, we're actually doing that a little bit differently using a task, if you see here, the then activate thermostat task. A task is a small subroutine. Instead of us rewriting all these, I want to set the cooling temperature to be this, I want to set the heating thermostat to be this, and constantly rewriting that, we're just associating that along with a task. And we have a lot of those tasks. You can find them on our website and also in previous webinars that we've actually done in RP software. Again, the last rule we've got, whenever the showroom is armed away mode, we're going to turn on a task, the economy mode task. So maybe we're turning off a bunch of lights, we're setting the thermostat back, and you can see how all that is working for us. Some hardware devices that we can actually integrate into the system. When we looked at gates, garage door or bay doors, shipping doors, mag locks, door stripes, pumps, you know, a lot of this electrical stuff we can actually activate into the M1 itself. It's going to kind of show your age. As long as you can wire up a relay, you can make really cool things happen. Us guys, I remember hooking up more and more relays over the years, and of course that's kind of been a lost art lately. Here we have an output expander, a relay board itself. This is going to give us additional relays. It gives us 16 more outputs, and we can build up that 205. It's going to give us 8 relay outputs, and you can see those 8 relays built on board, and also 8 voltage outputs. Now, don't worry, those voltage outputs, we can actually turn those into more relay outputs with an addition of a relay board, the ELK M1RB, and you can see it right down here below here. It brings up on screen. I do like the relay board itself because it does give you that cool little LED turn on when that relay does click, in case you can't hear the relay click because your buddy or your coworker turned on the siren close to your head. Well, we've all kind of done that to each other growing up in the industry. But just to give you an example, it does have that. You can also use the M1RB on the main board itself and turn those flying voltage outputs, 9 through 16, into relay outputs using this particular board.
And Jonathan, you also might want to mention that they can be remote located as well. They don't have to be at the control because these are bus devices.
Thanks, Brad. And see, you are staying awake, Brad. You're not only turning the slides for me, but you're keeping me straight and narrow.
That's my job.
Now, an output rule for an example. Whenever it's 5:15 and the shipping overhead door is not secure, which is going to be zone 9 in this particular installation, we're going to announce ship overhead door. So everybody's going to know, hey, this door is going to be closing. And then we're going to turn on an output that's wired to the motor on that particular door if it has an input. We can easily make this happen. It's going to turn on that output for 2 seconds, like somebody went up and pushed the close button on that particular door to be able to make that garage door itself close. So we're not leaving that thing open overnight, or whenever somebody goes up to arm the system, like, what, zone 9? I never go out to the shipping department. I don't know how to close that particular door. That's going to go ahead and take care of all that for us. Another example is automating sprinklers. A lot of sprinklers are out there to keep the lawn looking really nice in front of commercial buildings. We can go ahead and automate that into the M1 if we need to. So right now it's going to be whenever it's 5:45 a.m. and the moisture sensor is secure, it's then going to turn on the sprinklers for 10 minutes. We can also change that 10 minutes because that's going to be hard-coded in the rule itself. What we can also do is change that to a custom setting, and then the end user can have access to changing that particular time in that custom setting. Maybe they needed to set it back because it's rained a lot. Maybe they want to cut it down to 5 minutes, for an example, or they could turn it down to 0. So maybe there's a water restriction. You can't, use water right now. So we can actually let the end user change that for them. Automating the electric water heater. Now, what this can do is the water heater itself, we can basically just turn this thing off on holidays, for instance, is a great idea. We can also turn this off when the building is armed away mode. There's no reason to have the electric water heater to be turned on when the building is unoccupied. So we can start doing a lot of this little bit of stuff just based on turning this thing off when the building's armed away, but maybe we want a certain time to turn it on. So no one's going to be showing up there at like 7:45, 7:30, an example. Maybe even somebody's going to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, currently the rule is set at 6 a.m. and the days of the week are Monday through Friday. We're going to turn on that water heater. We've actually got it also set on turning it off the showroom in a custom setting. We can actually then turn it on too. Now here's the ELK 9200, the heavy duty relay slash contactor itself. This is how we can actually wire up for an electric water heater, or not only that, but maybe we want to do like some big pumps or anything else that takes a lot of voltage and amps to be able to move. We can actually wire into this device. Don't worry, the next slide breaks down how easy this thing is to wire. This thing uses up to 220 volts AC and up to 60 amps. Now here's just a slide of exactly how this thing needs to be wired. From breaker to the load, it's actually going to run through this particular device. This device is going to plug into anybody's appliance module, whether you're using Z-Wave, Insteon, UPB, whoever's product out there, even good old X10 back in the old days can actually use this system, and you can see how this is going to get wired in to that water heater itself or whatever load and be able to control that for you. So now you can see kind of the M1 is a great foundation to be able to integrate all these different things. So we can basically know when you're away or you're in the commercial building, the time of day, week, etc. We can actually customize all this type of setting, or just knowing the arming states. We work really, really well with all these subsystems, these lighting control, thermostat, stuff like that. Remember, this doesn't have to be scary or complicated. Start small and move forward. Maybe you just want to do 1 or 2 lights. Hey, that's fine. Maybe you just want to do 1 thermostat. It could be that small. Again, make yourself be the guinea pig, I'm always a big fan of learning it on my own before I go out and try to sell somebody else on it. I got to play with it. I got to see how it works. I need to see the nuts and bolts of this thing. It can be very cost effective as time moves on, just by doing some water heating and maybe a little energy management. You can start saving, $20, $30, maybe $40 a month on some of these installations, or somebody's constantly leaving lights on. I mean, that can come up into some, some really good savings over a 5-10 year plan. And also, it allows you to get in there with that commercial customer, which maybe that's what you've been trying to break into, but you don't know how to do it. Instead of just selling this regular security system to take over this commercial job, well, now you can go in there and say, hey, how about if we do a little bit of energy management for you? And just show them some of the cool stuff. So now we're going to kind of open this up to questions. If you want to type some questions in, Brad and I will be here to answer them. Probably more Brad than me.
I do apologize. I'm having a little technical difficulty with the GoToWebinar pane here. I'm not sure I'm getting all of the questions right now. So we had the one about X10, but I don't have one after that, or my GoToWebinar pane has stopped working, so I apologize. But those should get logged into the GoToWebinar, and the follow-up email next week should cover those if there's something that we missed today. And we'll give it just another couple minutes here and see if one pops in. Jonathan, do you see any on your end?
I see one. Somebody was thanking us, so those are always really nice.
Yep.
When I did have somebody email me a question before this began, they wanted to work on some more access control and the idea, and just kind of give everybody an idea. And I really like where this person was going, is that, maybe they've got a cleaning crew in a commercial building, maybe they also have a maintenance crew that's going to come in there and do some work, and they basically want to restrict them on when they actually have access. And yes, you can do that with the M1, but it's going to require a lot of rule writing, and maybe you don't want to do all those rule writing itself to be able to really restrict these people down to certain dates and time when they can actually be in there. That might be a good way to look at a cloud-based service that can do a lot more than what the M1's capable of doing, and you wouldn't have to write as many rules. So that might be a better question for Connect One. I probably need a little bit more information from the customer, but I just didn't have the time before the webinar. On Fridays for these, Brad and I are usually scrambling around trying to be sure we get everything accomplished before the webinar starts.
All right, so at this moment, I'm not...
Oh, wait, I got one.
Okay.
How many thermostats are supported, like the April Air themselves?
Yeah, we can support up to 16 thermostats on one system.
Alrighty. How much is the cloud-based service for Connect One? You'll actually need to go to them. They're a totally different company than us. Some great questions are coming in. Glad we didn't put everybody to sleep, Brad.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be putting in some Z-Wave thermostats in a commercial building. What's the best way of doing that?
Well, the Z-Wave works off of a mesh network. So the more devices you have, the stronger the network, because it bounces signals off of one device to the next. So you want to make sure that you incorporate devices that have that, I think that's called beaming, meaning that it'll take that signal. If it can't get directly from the Z-Wave interface to the thermostat, it's going to have to route that signal through different modules. So you want to make sure those modules have that capability. But it's the best thing we can say is the more devices, the stronger the mesh network, the better the signal has a chance of getting through to that remote device, whether it's a thermostat, a lock, or a lighting device, appliance module or switch or whatever.
Another question we got in, Brad, is I'm going to let you answer this one, because sometimes I get myself in trouble. The M1's been around for a long time. What newer replacement products is Elk working on?
Well, we are constantly trying to incorporate different technologies into the M1, and that may be through an enhancement to the board itself, through software, firmware updates, or maybe through our XSP, our serial port expander, or through the XEP, the Ethernet module. We are working on a couple items that we're probably going to be talking more about next year. One's called the C1M1. It's our dual path communicator. I believe that was shown at CEDIA, or maybe
It was.
Yeah, it was
shown at CEDIA.
Kind of mentioned at CEDIA. So we're finalizing that, and there'll be more on that product coming soon.
Another question is, it appears that the iPhone and Android apps are third-party, and you are absolutely correct. They are third-party. Does Elk have any homegrown apps?
Well, we have M1 to Go, which is a software, and it runs on a PC, or you can load it onto a thumb drive and take it with you. It's not mobile compatible with your Windows mobile phone, but it's a free download. And like I said, you can run it on your office PC or take it with your thumb drive and just load it wherever you go.
All right, Brad, I'm going to be really nice to you, and I'm going to answer this question for you. Can you put Z-Wave in two buildings 100 feet apart on one elk panel? Now, I'm going to go ahead and answer this one, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend you not doing this. And the reason being is some Z-Wave literature, depending on which manufacturer you look, some of them say they work 50 feet, some of them say they work 100 feet. Now that's going to be line of sight, and I call it lab quality. Where you have perfect settings. In the real world, you're never going to get that. Realistically, when it comes to Z-Wave, I'm much happier at like 25 to 35 feet from device to device, so that's why I'm recommending you 100 feet apart. I would not recommend trying to bounce a signal on the Z-Wave network that far away. Could it possibly work? Yes. Real world, realistically working reliably, I kind of have to shy away from that one.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed in literature, the devices need to be about 30 feet apart from each other.
What device would you use to interface with Z-Wave, Mr. Brad? What is that crazy part number?
That is the M1X SLZW, and that integrates with the Levington, their VRCOP module. Now, there's a couple components here that allows you to set up a Z-Wave network. You have to have the XSLZW and the VRCOP. You also need the Levington programming software and their USB stick in order to set up that Z-Wave network. Everything pretty much is done through the software and the USB stick, which then gets transferred into the VRCOP module, and the VRCOP gets updated with the changes. When you power cycle our board, the XSLZW, it does what's called a rediscovery of the network. So it talks to the VRCOP and gets those updates.
I think we did a webinar on the Z-Wave using that VRCOP, so that might be a good place of reference to be able to go back and look at that if anybody wants some more information about Z-Wave devices. What about the ISY and the ELK module?
Okay, ISY from Universal Devices, ISY, they developed I think it's called the ELK module that talks to our M1X EP, our Ethernet expander. So they have a plug-in that allows you, security capabilities with the M1 as well as Insteon lighting. Now, it's as far as the M1's concerned, in Insteon, we only support lighting. We don't support their thermostats or their motions. Only lighting devices.
Can you use two? Apparently, this is the Z-Wave module the person's referring to, the M1X SLZW on one ELK panel.
Two of them, no. I wouldn't recommend it. Let's leave that maybe as a follow-up. Right now, I'm going to say no, because the way Z-Wave works, when it learns into a network, you may learn in the first devices at 2, 3, and 4, but then take device 4 out of the equation and call it exclude, and then learn in a new device. It doesn't reuse that location 4. It may jump to location 10. So I'm going to probably say no. That wouldn't be a good fit to try to do that.
Ooh, can the Z-Wave lock be programmed through the ISY ELK module?
Z-Wave ISY ELK, no. No, the ELK, through the XSLZW, the M1 XSLZW sends the encrypted lock commands. So that we just basically tell the lock to lock or unlock, or we can request status like jammed, or battery from the lock. But other than that, that's our extent as far as controlling or integrating with the lock itself. Is just a basic fundamental operation.
All righty, we got a lot of really good questions rolled in there at the end. I'm really glad to see that. You see anything else there, Brad?
No, I think we have covered them. So once again, we certainly appreciate everyone's time today and for joining us. Hope you're able to get some good information out of this, and we do apologize for the couple of technical difficulties there. There will be a follow-up email next week with this, and this webinar is being recorded, I believe, so it may be posted up for future viewing. So at this moment, Jonathan, I'll let you finish up, and once again, thank everyone for their time and attendance today. We certainly do appreciate it.
Again, guys, girls, thanks everybody for joining us. If you have some ideas for future webinars or any questions, please feel free to, you can give us an email at training@elkproducts.com or tech support@elkproducts.com. Either of those two emails are going to work for you. We always want to provide as much feedback as we possibly can to our customers, such as all of you out there. So if there's anything we can do better to make your lives easier using our products, please let us know. Again, thank you so much for your time on this Friday, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.